Grade 11, this lesson is for you. It's chapter 30, section 4, and it's about the blood vessels and transport. We started this chapter talking about your respiratory system. We talked about the circulatory system, which is formed of the heart, the blood vessels, and of course the blood. So today we're going to talk about the blood vessels. Vessels are these equipments which allow the blood to circulate and to reach the different parts of your body, and at the same time it allows the blood to return from the different parts of your body back to the heart to be purified and then resent to your cells. These blood vessels are three types. We have the arteries, we have the veins, and we have the capillaries. The arteries always carry blood away from the heart, and in order to do this they need to be strong and flexible, because the blood they carry from the heart is under great pressure. An artery's thick wall is formed of three layers. An innermost layer, let's see here, it's formed of three layers. The innermost layer consists of endothelium. Endothelium is just layers of cells which is coated with a protein that prevents the blood from clotting. So the innermost layer, the layer that is in contact with the blood, is coated with a protein that prevents the blood from clotting, which means that it prevents the blood from clumping inside your arteries. The middle layer is a thick band of smooth muscle and elastic fibers, and then the outer layer is connective tissue and elastic fibers. So we have three layers that are forming your arteries. The elastic fibers allow the arterial walls to expand and contract to help move the blood through the arteries. From the arteries, and in order to reach the cells, the arteries, they become smaller and smaller until they become what we call arterioles. The arterioles, or smaller arteries, they contain the same three layers, but the outer and the middle layers are much thinner. So the arteries, which are the vessels that carry the blood away from your heart, are formed of these three layers. Then we go to look at the veins. Of course, you have to know that the arteries always carry the blood from the heart at a high pressure, because as the blood leaves the heart, it has to be pushed with a great pressure in order to reach all your cells. Then we move to the veins. The veins, of course, they carry the blood to the heart. Okay, the structure of the veins reflects the fact that the blood is under much less pressure when it's returning to the heart. They have larger diameter and thinner walls than the arteries, and they contain valves that prevent the blood from flowing backwards. So in case of the arteries, we want the blood to flow through the arteries to reach the different cells. But in case of the veins, we want the blood to return to the heart. And this blood is not under pressure because there is no pump. So we have the muscles that are surrounding the veins that pump the blood in them. And then we have valves that prevents the backflow of the blood. Here is the structure of the vein. First of all, they have larger diameter and they have thinner walls. They do not have a thick layer that expands and contracts to keep the blood moving. Instead, they need the activity of the skeletal muscles to help maintain the circulation. For example, as you walk, the skeletal muscles in your legs, they push against the veins. The valves open, the blood moves upwards towards the heart. So when you sit for too long, the lack of exercise makes it harder for the blood to move upward. Again, in case of the veins, they are thinner, the walls are not as elastic as the heart, and they contain valves, as you see here, that allow the blood to flow in one direction towards the heart, and it prevents its return. As we said with the arteries, they become arterioles at the level of the cells. The vein, they become venules at the levels of the cells. And then we have the capillaries. Here, let's stop here for a second. Here when you see the action of the valves, they allow the blood to move in this direction and then they close, preventing its return backwards. And then we have the capillaries. The capillaries are that part, the smallest blood vessels in, the capillaries are the smallest blood vessels in your body. The capillaries are responsible for all the exchange that occurs at the levels of the cells. They are only made of epithelium. They contain no muscle cells or elastic fibers. The thinness of the capillary walls allows the materials to diffuse into and out of the blood quickly and easily. Okay? The areas of high metabolic activities, the areas where there is a lot of activities, as the lungs, the kidneys, and the liver, the capillaries form dense networks called capillary beds. These beds, they move a great deal of blood into and out of these organs. Finally, we're going to talk about the blood pressure. As we're talking about the blood vessels, we have to mention that the blood vessels are how we measure the blood pressure. The blood pressure is divided into two numbers if you ever listen. So whenever someone close to you that is measuring their blood pressure, they tell them, for example, it's 120/80. It's 110/70. The biggest number is called systolic pressure, which is the top number. And this is the amount of pressure on the walls of an artery when the left ventricle contracts to pump the blood through the body. The bottom number is known as the diastolic pressure. This is the pressure in the arteries when the left ventricle relaxes. So we have a contraction pressure, which is called the systolic pressure, and then we have the relaxation pressure, which is called the diastolic pressure. The higher number systolic, the lower number diastolic. The blood pressure depends on how elastic and unblocked the arteries are, and of course the strength of the blood contraction. If the arteries are blocked in a way or another, or they are not as elastic as they should be, for example due to cholesterol present in the walls of the arteries, the blood pressure is not going to be a normal blood pressure. People with permanently high blood pressure, they have a condition called hypertension, which is the elevation of the blood pressure. A person who is having a heart attack means that their arteries are damaged or blocked. And then when we say that this person got a stroke, this means that the blood flow to the brain is interrupted. Most people can lower their blood pressure through, of course, weight loss, proper diet, and exercise. That's it for our session about the blood vessels, and next time we're going to be talking about the blood and its components.